Today we're going to be talking about how to get close to max rewards if you're like in the mid game area. And if I had to give like a CP range for what I'm talking about, I would say probably like 60 to 90 mil CP, maybe 100 mil. It really honestly will depend on how good you are at the game as well. That is always a factor. But also the lower you are in that range, like if you're more towards like the 60 to 70 mil, it will be a little harder for sure, but it's still doable. Basically, all you have to do is do 2 bosses on S20, whichever ones are the hardest or the easiest for you, do them on S20. The other 4 bosses you're going to do on S2. And this is exactly what I did. So I did Zakum and Horntail on S20, and then I did Darknell, Slime, and Vellum on S2. I had 16 lives left after finishing, and I have, you can see I have the max box. I have 582k, and I have 47 out of 50 fragments, which is like, it's very close to max rewards, and it's not that bad. I would recommend just the 2 easiest bosses, S20. For me, as a Nightwalker, it is Zakum and Horntail by far. So I would recommend trying those. If you look here, all you need is 4 deaths at the end of it. So I could have lost 12 more lives and I would still get over 500k score. So you can see here, it's 510. So it'd be over the 500. So you have to, at the end of it, you have to only have 4 lives left, which is not bad at all. I do also want to give credit to the person that I saw this from. It was in a comment section of a YouTube video. His name was Legendary Gary. I'll pop it up like on screen so you can see it, but thank you. I don't know if you came up with this idea, but it is a very good way of getting close to max rewards. Basically, if you're in between, so like S20 is kind of hard to do, but A20, you just one burst it with Origin and you're in that middle area, which is exactly where I'm at. 2 S20s and then 4 S2s is perfect, which is exactly what I did. It worked out really well and it wasn't very difficult at all. But yeah, credit to Gary for that. Thank you for posting that. That's all you cared about. That's all you got to do. Basically, 2 S20s, 4 S2s, that's it. Have 4 lives at the end. What I will say is I'm going to show the clips of every single boss that I fight in this, the real runs. I think Darknell I might have forgot to record, so I'll do a practice run and I'll just throw it in there. But I'm going to give tips for each boss. Some of them are going to be Nightwalker specific tips. Some of them are going to be tips that everybody can implement. So if you do want some help with the runs, I will do that as well, so you can stay tuned and watch for that. If all you wanted was how to get the closest to rewards and now you just want to go do it, and there you go. If you do want to watch the actual runs of me doing it, then they will be upcoming soon, and there will be tips for Nightwalkers and other classes as well. All right, 2 quick things before we get into the gameplay. Number 1, the biggest tip I can give you for anybody is make sure you use the Wild Hunter and use the door potion. So what I've been doing is I pop a door, and then whenever this door goes away, I'm a Nightwalker, so I have my own door as well. Whenever the door goes away, I turn on my door, and that gives me 2 free lives. So even if I die twice, it's not counting towards the death count because of the doors that I have. So if you have a door class, or even if you don't, make sure at least you use the door that you can buy from the collector. If you don't know, I have another video that goes over the event a couple days ago probably that goes over how to unlock this, be able to buy it. But yeah, make sure you use your door and then your Nightwalker door if you're a Nightwalker, or if you're another class like a Bishop, use that. Also, if you're really scared that you're not going to have the 4 lives that you need by the end of the 6 bosses, you can wait until your door comes back up. So you can do the first boss. Let's say you do S20 Zakum, you lose your door then, and you lose the pot door. The pot door you could just put back on right away, but if you want to, you could wait for your door to come back off cooldown. If you're a Nightwalker, it's like 30 minutes, so you just wait 30 minutes, then you do the next boss. That's up to you if you like really think it's going to be hard for you to get to that level 4 or 4 deaths left. If not, then you don't have to wait for it. Obviously, that's like up to you to decide, but it is an option as well, and you can go into every single boss with like 2 extra lives if you have the pot and your own door. So it's really good, because that means that's like, what, 12 lives extra? That's a lot, honestly, when you think about it. So you could lose 12 lives in these bosses and still be at 20 if you waited for your door and always use the potable door. So it's a good option, honestly. Number 2 is at the end of the video, I'll like briefly show what the rewards were for the first week. It just ended and reset as I'm like editing this video, so I'll show the rewards at the end. There's one more tip I want to give before we get into gameplay. It's basically to change your link skills and put some survivability links on. Normally my Legion or my link skill page has all of the damage stuff, but in this one I add 3 survivability link skills. So close call, anything that would kill you, you have a 10% chance of just not dying to it, so that's really useful. Invincible Belief heals you, so whenever you fall below 15%, it'll heal you for a certain amount depending on the level that you have it. It's got 2 90-second cooldown at level 4, Gets lower once you're like level 5 and 6. Number 3 is Spirit of Freedom, which basically gives you an iframe after you respawn. If you have it at max level, it's an 8-second iframe. So that's also really good as well. So I'd definitely recommend experimenting with that. All right, before we get into the tips, I wanted to show the buff list that I use. So make sure to use as many of these as you can to do as much damage as possible. The more you stack, the better. Just pause this if you need to, but try and get as many of these as you can. All right, so the first most important tip that I want to talk about for any boss and what you should do during the entire all 6 bosses, you should make sure that you're focusing lives over damage at every point during the fight. Even if you're in your origin burst, it doesn't matter. Focus your lives over damage all the time, because if you have to not damage the boss for like 1 to 2 seconds because you're dodging something, you're going to lose maybe like 0.5% to 1% max, maybe if you're in origin burst a little more. But it's not worth losing the life, and lives are definitely the most important thing. Play safe over everything. During burst, I like to hit as many of the body parts as possible, so I stand in the 2 closest to Horntail platforms, either on the left side or the right side. The left side, in my opinion, is better because any of the stuff that comes down from the sky, like the meteors, they start from the right side, so you'll have more time to dodge it if you're on that left platform. Make sure to pick up the blue circles whenever you see them. They're going to charge your interact key faster and help you when you're bursting. The main 2 times I like to use them are, number 1, I'm always going to use them like right before my burst or a part of like my burst combination. 2, if there's a lot going on in the fight and I feel like I'm going to die, I'm going to use it just to clear out some space so I can just make sure that I don't die. Since Nightwalker's DPM is using quintuple and it's mostly single target, what you're going to want to do is use your bite off cooldown. The only reason I didn't all the time was just because I forgot, but using that will help target every head more often. You could also experiment with Shadow Bats and Shadow Spark to see if they do better DPM. I didn't personally do it, I just held down quintuple, but those are 2 options as well to try in practice mode. Another thing too is if the head or the piece that you're targeting is you're only doing 1 damage because it's buffed, like you can see on screen right now, then you're going to want to switch sides, or you can go to one of the farther right portals if it's the middle head. Also, another option you have is you can stand on the ground if there are a lot of things falling from the sky and you just want as much time to dodge them as possible. You could, since we are single target damage, you could stay on the ground to take out both the legs and the tail first, and then on your burst you can go to the platforms to target everything. That is an option as well if you do feel safer on the ground. In Horntail, you're going to get this debuff a lot where you're stuck going one direction or jumping and you can't control yourself. You can see on my S key, an all cure potion, but you have to keep in mind, if you use an all cure potion, it'll take your potion that you can use like every 5 seconds or so you won't be able to use a healing potion. So if you're gonna need to heal, just sit there and take the debuff. If you don't need to heal, you can use an all cure potion and get out of it right away. If you see this small little star gloom looking thing, there's 2 different types. There's one that you can target and kill, and there's one that you can't. This one is the one that you can't kill. Basically, if it gets close to you, it's going to push you, and it's also going to stun you, so you want to constantly move away from it, which is why you're going to see me jumping away from it. The healing one, you want to kill that as quickly as possible because it will actually heal the boss for a lot of HP, so make sure you kill that as fast as you can. If you see this icon, it's the exact same as part 2 of Damien when he summons those orbs. You want to dodge it by blinking, jumping over it, whatever you can do to dodge it. Just make sure you don't get hit by those because they will kill you very quickly. So you're about to go into our second burst, and throughout the entire thing, I'm going to use my interact key ability right before I burst. As you can see, I just used it. I also grabbed another one that was on the ground so I could fill it up as fast as possible. Now we're bursting. Again, with the burst, you want to be in a spot where you can hit as many heads as possible. You can put GDS on the ground if you want to hit the bottom stuff. It really is up to you if you want it on the ground or you want it on the platform with you to hit multiple heads. I think multiple heads is probably better, and the 2 arms. These 2 rotating challenges spawn on the top left, so I decided to get off the platform and just go to the bottom right and DPM the feet and the tail, which I actually like DPMing the feet and the tail and then bursting the 3 heads and the 2 arms. You could also use your charges if you want and get rid of them and then just sit on the platform again. It's up to you. So here I was origin bursting and the healing little gloom guy spawned, so we're gonna just see how much it heals, but you do want to kill it right away. I didn't notice it at first, so it did get to heal a decent amount, But what you want to do to kill it, because we are single target damage for the most part, if you're in your burst, you can just probably quintuple and still kill it. But I just focus this thing, so I bite it, omen it, I use Shadow Spark to make sure I'm hitting it. Just do whatever you can, make sure it dies so it doesn't heal, because it does heal for a lot. Whenever I get blinded and launched, I always blink because I don't know if there's any meteors or anything, and I don't want to get hit and potentially one shot and die to something because I can't see. So I'd recommend getting the habit of blinking right after you get launched and blinded. I wanted to show this because I do die once in Horntail. I forgot to turn on my door, so I took a death, but it was preventable. The Damien Part 2 challenge comes up right here, and I also get locked in the animation where I have to walk a certain direction. I can't control my character. I should have just will skilled it. I would recommend have at least one of your will skills. I have both, but that was definitely a preventable death if I just used my will. All right, so this is our final burst on Horntail, and you might see that it is pretty low HP, so you might want to just DPM out of it. I would recommend always just burst out of every boss, even if you're at like 7% HP, just because you want to prioritize lives, right? Like, it's not that big a deal if you go out of this boss and you have to wait 6 minutes for your origin burst again. It is a big deal if you lose one or more lives while you only have 7%. In a boss like Horntail specifically, this is one of the easier bosses. This is why we're S20ing it. It isn't that likely it's going to happen, but in some of these other bosses, it 100%, you could lose a couple lives even if you only have 10% left. So I'd recommend just play it safe, burst out of the boss no matter what percentage you're at. Even if you're at 5%, then maybe do a normal burst and save your origin if you know it'll kill it. This is a perfect example of why you blink whenever you get launched and blinded. There was a bunch of meteors under me that I probably would have died from, but I just blinked instantly, so make sure to get used to that. All right, so Horntail's done. I got 165k with 1 life lost, so it is a decent amount. You basically get like 300k off the first S20 bosses, Horntail and Zakum. On to the next boss. I got Zakum next, which is actually what I preferred. I wanted the 2 S20 bosses first, and I did get that. It is random, so it is up to RNG. All right, now we're doing Zakum. The challenges are going to show on screen in a second. The timing for this boss is very important. So I origin burst right away. When I'm popping origins, when its first set of hands go down, so you don't have to worry about getting hit. The things I would pay attention to are the timings, because in the very beginning, after your origin burst, it gets pretty chaotic. So I would focus on surviving right after you finish your burst. Then once the 3 platforms come on both sides of the map, it gets pretty easy to do damage. So I'd focus on doing damage during that phase. Probably like 1 to 2 minutes in of the platforms, it starts getting hard again. So I would focus on surviving until your next burst comes up. But I'll show that all in this as well. There's 2 things to keep in mind. So number 1, when you're using your roar, use it as far left as possible, because if you do die, you'll stay in roar because you spawn on the left side. If it's not all the way left, then you won't stay in roar. Number 2, if you're a Nightwalker, when you're using your rapid throw, you have to jump before you use rapid throw, so you don't die to Zakum hands. So like right here, you see I jump a little too high, but make sure that you jump so you don't die to Zakum hands. Another thing as well, I'm in burst right now, but the Damien Part 2 type challenge comes, so I focus on that, right? So again, it's focusing on surviving over damage, even if I'm in origin burst. Always focus on surviving. So at this point, my burst is pretty much about to end, at least the strong part of it. I would say from around 29-25 up until 28-40, you're going to want to focus more on surviving, because this is the period in time where it gets very chaotic. So just survive for these like 30 to 40 seconds from 29-25 to 28-40. So now that we're at 28-40, the 3 platforms spawn on each side. This is another really good time to do DPS. The challenges die down a lot here, and this is a good time to do your 90-second bursts as well. Just make sure if you're bursting, for example, if you're a Nightwalker, even if you're not on the platform that is glowing and about to one-shot you, if you're next to it, even in the air using your rapid throw, you'll still die from it. With your mini burst too, you want to make sure that you time it so that when a platform lights up that isn't the platform you're standing on, you instantly mini burst so you can get it off before another platform goes off. So from 28-40 to about 28 exactly is your like a good 40 seconds for you to focus on doing some DPM and doing your mini burst. I would also use the interact skill while you're doing your mini burst, and it'll give you a very good window to survive and just not have that much going on. Once it hits 28 minutes, I would say this is where it can start getting chaotic again, depending on the challenges you get. And also at around 27-50, you just saw the platforms are going to go, and it's going to be back into the normal hands that you have to dodge. So this is again when you're going to want to just wait for your full burst to come back up and focus on surviving over everything. If you do need to just sit in dark sight in between those times, then it's more than fine to do so. Also, if you do die, you can wait out the time as much as possible, give yourself as much time as possible. But right now we're bursting, so again, it's pretty similar. Make sure to do the interact skill when you're bursting. It's a very common theme above everything. I would say keep your roar on the left side. I don't really do it in this video. Also, a very good point here is keep your roar on one of the sides, because if you get the platforms like right here, I have to sit inside the fire and DPM through it just because I want to stay in my roar. Obviously, you could get out the roar, but I'd rather just stay in it and DPM in the fire. So make sure that you're roaring on the left or the right side, so that if platforms do come, you can just sit in your roar still. During these 3 platforms, there's also not a ton going on. It's a pretty good time for me to do DPM. It really will depend on the challenges you get, but you can see there's not very much on screen. I also did use my interact key skill pretty recently since I just bursted, but there's another good time to DPS. Once the platforms disappear and the hands attack again is when you probably want to play safer. Once you get Zakum to like 20% left, as you can see I'm getting close to that, it starts to get very easy and there's actually no challenges at all once you're at 20%. If you need to play safe after your second burst and you're not that close to the 20%, it's going to take you another burst. Just play safe. If you're a thief, sit in dark sight, but just focus on dodging stuff and wait for your burst. It's more than fine. After 2 bursts, I'm pretty close to getting to 20%, so I DPM to 20%. And at right now, this is when it's going to be the easiest to do damage to the boss. The only things you have to dodge are these falling rocks and making sure that you go in that little cube thing. If you don't go in the cube thing, you're going to take a death, so make sure you always get in the cube thing. If you get hit by a falling rock, you won't be able to like move and you're like slowed, so make sure you don't get hit by those. That's literally all you have to watch out for in this area. So now at this point, it's very easy to do damage, as I said before. I'm just DPMing him. My burst is going to come up soon, but it's really low, so I'm just going to DPM out of this just because it's super low and there's very low stakes in this part of the fight because there are no challenges during this. So you really don't have to worry too much. But if you're not like super low, I would say if you're not DPMing super strong either, or you don't have a high DPM class, then just burst out of it. For me, it was easy to DPM out, but I got another like 130k or something at like 330 total. To sum up Zakum, you're gonna insta burst. For the first 40 seconds, you're gonna focus your damage, make sure that you still survive and focus on lives if there's crazy stuff happening. After, at around 29-25, you're gonna focus on surviving until 28-40. At 28-40, you can focus on doing DPM, getting your mini burst off if you have one. Then after your mini burst, you can focus on surviving again. Once your second burst is up, then you're going to focus damage during your second burst. Be careful because the platform can come on around the time your second burst comes up if you're like a 3-minute class. After your second burst, you kind of figure out where you are. If you're close to 20%, I would try to DPM to 20% because it's really easy to do damage. If you're not, it's going to take you another burst, and play safe in between your second and third burst just to make sure that you don't lose any lives. All right, now we're getting into the next boss. For me, I got Slime. These bosses, the rest of the 4 are all pretty similar to their normal fights. More health, some have less health, but it really depends. Challenge RNG is going to be the biggest factor here, so you could get some really bad challenges for some of these fights, and you could also get some really good ones. So that will make a big difference as well. What you want to do in the beginning, you can see me doing it here. Use your burst instantly. Don't origin burst off the beginning, but use your non-origin burst right away because it will be back up by the time the first test happens. You're going to do as much damage as you can with your burst. One thing you want to make sure that you do with Slime is block 2 portals. You could block 1 portal. I like to block 2. I usually block the top 2 portals, so the left one and the right one, the orange one and the light blue one. I'll block those. The more damage that you do to Slime, the faster the interact key will fill up that skill. So you can do damage to him, then go and smack a rock into a portal, then you go do damage to him again and smack another rock into a portal. And you can follow that rhythm until you have all 6 done and 2 portals done. It takes 3 to fill if you didn't know. But once you have 6 rocks in 2 portals and they're both filled, you can just focus on damage. If you're a 3-minute class, your cooldowns will be around 20 seconds to 30 seconds left when the first test is happening. That's how I know the first test is happening. I don't know what time it is. It's probably like 27:30 or something, but I time it based off when my cooldowns are coming up. So 3-minute class, it's around 20 to 30 seconds until your abilities are back up. So with Slime, I like to keep him on the 2 platforms that I'm covering. So since I'm doing the top 2 portals, I'm going to keep him on the top 2 platforms. Sometimes I will bring him down one lower just if it gets like crazy. But for the most part, I just keep him on the left platform and the right platform. And I switch him between the 2, and you can always just do damage and switch to each side. One thing you do want to keep a lookout for is they're like purple slimes. They will do the same thing that happens to you in the Horntail boss, where you get stuck going one direction and you can't control your character. So if you're on a platform with those guys, you can see one right now. If you're on a platform with those guys and he runs to you, he'll make you do that. So be very careful of that whenever you're on a platform, and I would just not go on the platforms that he is on. Slime has 3 different attacks. The first one is a jump, and then he'll slam the ground, and it's a one-shot if you're on his platform, so be careful of that. 2, he has a little laser that he shoots, does a lot of damage. And then 3, he has like a slam, so if you're nearby, he'll slam you and do a lot of damage to you. So make sure to watch out for those. Now we're in the test. For whatever portals you blocked up top, you're going to want to lead the little slime you're going to see on screen in a little bit into that portal. So what you do is you use your interact key. You place down these little rocks, and they will guide the slime into the portal. So just make sure to block off the 2 portals that you didn't cover, or if you didn't cover 3 portals, the 3 portals that you didn't cover. But if you do this, you are going to get a 10-second bind once you get out of this test. So right now I just completed it. I brought it into the orange portal. So in 10 seconds, slime's going to appear, and I'm going to have a 10-second bind on slime, which is really nice because it gives me more time to pop my buffs. He can in this, I don't know if it's a glitch. He can also spawn on the top 2 platforms, the left one and the right one, not the highest one from what I've seen. So be careful of that as well, because it might just randomly happen. But right here, I origin burst, and then I use my normal bind once the lasers are coming, and then I usually jump up a platform just to dodge it while still being able to do damage. But right here, you're definitely going to want to focus your damage as much as possible. Even if you're on the same platform as him, it's fine. Just jump up and dodge his jump. I'll usually focus my burst until probably about 40 seconds in, when most of my super high damaging skills are gone. Then I'll start putting in the rocks into the portals again. So I spend about 40 seconds just doing DPS to him. Then I focus on the rocks. At this point, it's basically the same thing. It just really depends on the challenges you have. The challenges I have, I got kind of lucky. These are like not even noticeable challenges, to be honest. I take more damage, I think, is the one I currently have right now. But with this, you just want to do your DPS until you can fill a rock into a portal, then you do that again. The main thing I would say, other than challenges, is there's a lot of chip damage in this boss. So one, the slime on the ground that is under slime, right near where my clone is at, that will do damage if you're sitting on it. Any of the rocks, if you're sitting on, they will do damage. Those lasers you just saw will stun you and do a lot of damage. They'll basically one-shot you almost. There's a lot of stuff in here that will do a lot of like chip damage to you, so you got to be careful for that. And if you do take a lot of damage and you can't heal yet, just sit on a platform far away from him. The map's big enough to where you can just like sit on the top platform or sit on the bottom and just be completely safe for a while. So just make sure that you play it safe, and you can take chip damage. You can as well, if there are rocks and you've already filled your portals, just clear them out of the way. At this point, we're on our second test now. Everything was basically played the same as the first set. To sum up this boss, what you want to do is first you're going to go into insta burst, right? Then you're going to do DPM until you fill up your interact skill so that you can place a rock into a portal to fill up the portals, and then you're going to DPM again until you do that and you have 2 portals filled. So you're not really going to focus DPM, you're just going to DPM to get your interact key skill filled up. Not the one for this event, the one for slime. And then once that's filled, you put a rock into a portal, you do that 6 times. Then you're going to do the test, which is what you see on screen. Just guide the slime snake into the portals you covered. After that, you're going to do your full burst, and you're going to focus burst for like 40 to 50 seconds, and then you're going to go back into that DPM to filling up the portals mode. And it's just a repeat cycle of that, just depending on how many times you need to burst to kill the boss. The main thing you watch out for in this is 1, if you get bad challenges, that 2, all the chip damage that's in here. So there's 3 to 4 different things that are going to do a lot of chip damage to you. One thing that's going to lock you in animation and make it so that you can't control your character will skill the purple slime if it end up locking you ever, and also the lasers as well. So you want to make sure you avoid the lasers at all costs. And that's also, if you didn't know, filling up the portals with the rocks stops the lasers from coming through that portal. So if you want less lasers, you fill up more portals. Also with your bursts, so on my origin burst, I just origin right away because I want the damage, even though it's still bound from doing the test right. But on my non-origin burst, make sure to wait to bind it until it's unbound from its normal 10 seconds. You want to make sure that you maximize your damage as much as possible. Also make sure if you're roaring, don't roar in the middle. You want to roar where there's a platform above you, because once the lasers appear, you're going to want to just jump up to the platform above and still do damage to slime, and you'll be in your roar as well. One little tip also, if the lasers appear, you can stand behind the doors or the portals and be safe from the lasers. So you could do that and still damage slime if he's on the platform under you. This is what can happen if you stand on a platform with one of those purple slimes. You'll see I instantly get stuck and can't move, and then I get pushed into the laser because I'm like just walking there and I can't control it, and I don't take a death, but I lose my door. So we're on our last burst here. One thing, I'm assuming most people are doing this, but make sure to pop your buffs before slime appears, at least the long cooldowns. I usually pop all the longs and then I wait for the like more important short cooldowns until he spawns, but make sure to do that. It's something simple if you aren't doing it. And we just killed it. I'm at 400k with 3 bosses defeated. I didn't lose any lives. I did lose my door, but I didn't lose any lives on that boss. Or most of the S2 challenges are gonna be pretty similar to the other bosses and how they normally play. So that slime one it was almost the exact same thing, so it was very easy. So if you're used to doing these bosses, S2 is not going to be that different. It'll just depend on the challenge you get, but for me it was not too bad. I'm at 400k already. I've only defeated 3 bosses, so I only need 100k left with 3 more bosses, which is not hard at all. We also do have half the bosses done. 2 of the S20s are done, so it's just 3 S2s, and I'm on 38 out of 50 frags. So now we're going to get into the 4th boss. I got Vellum. These are my challenges. Right now I'm currently at 17 lives with 3 bosses left, so we're in a pretty good spot. We're going to insta-burst when we get in development. He doesn't spawn right away, so pop all of your longer lasting buffs. Then what you're going to want to do if you're a Nightwalker specifically, don't use your rapid throw right away. You're going to hold down quintuple. I time it like 2 to 3 seconds. I hold down quintuple and then I bind again. The reason you don't want to rapid throw is because you'll be stuck in rapid throw and you won't be able to rebind Vellum, so he'll go down. So you can see here, I time it like to the millisecond. Like I bind, he goes down, but he comes back up because I still hit the bind. I wouldn't time it that close because if you miss it, it kind of sucks. So, and if he comes back out, he'll kill you in your roar, and you'll probably lose your roar. Like you see right there, I did jump out of roar, which that one's gonna happen most likely no matter what because he's already been bound twice, so he's gonna have to come out. Ideally, if you can dodge it and stay in roar, then you do that. If not, then you just go. Also, you can see here, I did not have my door on. I forgot to put my door on, so I took a death there. This challenge where this strikes right here is actually really bad for Vellum because it's a very fast thing that you have to dodge quickly, and it stuns you, so you can get hit by a tail in one shot very easily. So if you do get this, you gotta be on it. At least if you get hit by it, you see I just did it there. Make sure that you're jumping so you move out of the way, so you're not just standing still and getting hit by a tail. So at least jump, so if you get hit by it, you still have a chance of not dying. When Vellum shoots his 3 fireballs, I have a specific strategy that I like to do that usually works pretty well. So 1, you stand far back behind him and you just keep inching closer, and you can actually stand in front of him. I usually do it after 2 of his fireballs, then you'll stand in front of him. As long as you're not really far forward, then you won't get hit by the fireball. So I just stand in the back for 2 and move closer to him, and then by the third, I'm already in front of him, just like right next to him, but don't stand on top of him because when he goes down, he'll hit you for a lot of damage. Vellum's fight in general just requires a lot of patience. For this whole thing, you can't ever damage him for a very long time because he just keeps coming out of the hole, going back in the hole. So for the most part, just be patient, make sure that you're focusing on surviving over everything. Ideally, what I like to do to summon him from coming underground, you'll see it right here, is I like to just jump over the little icon you see, so he'll spawn facing the other side and the tail will also spawn on that other side, so I can just freely damage him. And I just do that over and over again, where I'll jump to the other side of his little icon when he's underground. You can see it again right there, and I just do free damage to him, and then I just keep doing that over and over. This is also a perfect example of what I do for when he shoots his 3 fireballs. So I start behind him, I jump forward a little bit, and then I jump forward a little bit more, and then I stand in front of him by the 3rd fireball. It's a very easy way to just never die. Sometimes you won't always be in the position to be able to do that, but I just do it in reverse if I need to. But for the most part, that's my ideal way to do as much damage as possible during those 3 fireball attacks. This period in Vellum is the most dangerous, I think, by far, other than the FMA. So when he's in this spot, he's half out, and all these green little things are on the ground. It also can spawn his tails that one-shot you. I would just make sure, just play safe. You don't even need to do damage to him during it. Just find a spot that's empty that has no green stuff on it, and just sit there. And then if a yellow tail's about to come to you, switch to another empty spot and just focus on surviving for that part. This is a good example of his most dangerous time. So he's half out, the green is about to start coming, and the tails are also going to still follow you. You see I go straight to the empty spot, a tail goes there, so I go to the other far empty spot. Obviously I'm in a place that's very far away to damage Vellum. It's not possible, but that's what I said earlier. Just focus on surviving during that, because you don't get much damage to him over a short period of time anyways. The other really dangerous time for Vellum is his FMA. So I think it starts around 40 to 50%, but he'll go under and he won't come back up, and then that's when you know his FMA is coming. You also see a deep breath text on screen, so you have to go to the left side or the right side, check to see if he's there, and if he's not, you got to run to the other side as well. If you are a Nightwalker or your class that has a teleport, use that. So I would GDS one side, like GDS on, have it on the left side, and then go to the right. And if it's not on the right, at least it's in the middle left somewhere, so you could just GDS teleport all the way to the left side. But yeah, you just got to, when you see that text, or before you see it, when he doesn't come back up, you could tell he's not coming back up. Just go to either side. If he's not in one, go to the other side. Make sure that you're next to him for his FMA. He'll like just breathe fire over the entire map and one-shot everything. So if you're not next to him, you get one shot. Also, it's a very good time to do damage to him. If you have a 90-second burst, it's a really good time to get that off as well. All right, so it's going to be my last Vellum burst, and I'm probably going to need to do some DPM from here. Make sure during the most important, most dangerous times, you focus on surviving. Damage isn't that big a deal when it comes to Vellum other than your burst, just because you can only do so little so often. Like, he's out for like 2 seconds, so you can't really do that much damage in that time. Your bursts are really going to be where a good amount of damage is for sure. Yeah, just make sure that for your burst, pop your longs before he comes out. Right when he comes out, use your origin to stun him. If you do get a test during one of your bursts where he is about to do the FMA right now, then it's a really good time to start your burst or just continue it, because he is just sitting there for a while and you can stun him right at the end of that as well. All right, Vellum's gonna die any second. We're just doing some last bit of chip damage. You basically just got to stay on your toes for Vellum the entire time, especially if you have the stun lightning thing that I had. Just constantly be moving, or constantly like just be ready to move. We're at 450k weekly score with 4 bosses complete. I think I did take 1 life in Vellum. We're at 450k, so we only need 50k more, and we have 2 bosses left. And they give you, we're also at 40 frags, so we're getting pretty close to max rewards now. We just got 2 more bosses, Pap and Darknell, which some probably would say are the hardest to. Depends on the person. All right, so our next boss is going to be Pap. These are the 2 challenges that I got. I have the lightning stun that I had in Vellum, and I also have the directional input switching. So those are 2 kind of annoying challenges, to be honest. When I first go into Pap, I'm in no rush to burst, especially if you're doing S1. It's not really that big of a deal. Plus, these blue things on the ground that one-shot you just make it more annoying. So I'm really not in a rush to burst. I just like to bring him over to exactly where he's at right now. I want him to be on the right side 2 platforms that are closest to the middle, because this is going to be my sweet spot of where I play in Pap the entire fight for the most part. When you are bursting, you'd want to burst basically in the exact spot that I'm at right now, because you have a lot of options in this spot if anything bad happens. So this is a perfect example. If these lasers come up in my burst, if I'm in this spot, I can still block the blue laser while staying in my burst and like keeping my roar up. Also, if there's any clocks, if I pop my roar around here, I have those 2 platforms that I can use, or walking, I can just walk and dodge the clocks, stay in my roar. If the blue aura on the ground pops up that one-shots you, there's a spot right in between these 2 platforms where you can play as well and not get hurt. Another reason this spot's really good on the right is because, as you can see the blue lasers there, if I needed to block this blue laser, I could do it exactly from that spot in between, and I won't get one-shot by those blue auras that are on the ground. So it's perfect because of that. And you can also dodge clocks if you need to, using the platforms above that open area. All right, so with this timer, if you're a thief, you can cheese this, just dark side it and stay in dark side at 0 seconds. If you're not a thief, you're gonna have to grab the 2X's that you see on the right by killing the little clocks, and then you're gonna have to line it up as best as you can with his timer. Also, during this time in Pap, when the keys are falling, focus on DPS. There's not gonna be much going on right now. You do take damage over time, but just DPS the heck out of them right now. If you have a mini burst, use it on this. Just make sure you're blocking the lasers and focus DPS for this area. For this test, it's very helpful to use the 9-hour ones. Right now you can see it's blank. I'm about to grab a 9-hour and it's gonna bring it all the way back to the 1%. So it brings it one behind what it's currently at. So if I got another 9-hour now, it would bring it to the 10%, and then another 9-hour would bring it to the 100. So you can just keep grabbing 9-hours over and over until you get them all done, and it's pretty easy to do it that way. Something with the lasers that I will always do whenever they spawn, I'm going to go to the middle, like left side, just so I can see both, because I want to know if I actually need to block them or not. Like if you stay on the right side and you're not able to see the left laser, you don't know if you actually have to block, so you might just be sitting there blocking it for no reason and tanking clocks. So I like to stay in the middle, and then I know, like right now you can see I actually am gonna have to block this one, so I'll block it. But it's very helpful to do that as well, not just completely stay on the right side. Pap on S1 shouldn't be that hard as long as you have like enough damage to do it in a couple bursts. For the most part, make sure you're dodging the clocks. Make sure you're blocking the lasers as well. Go to the middle when the lasers first spawn to see if you're actually going to need to block it, and you can just go to the right whenever you need to block it. Dodge the blue like clock auras that spawn on the ground that one-shot you. And if you need to block a laser, stand on the right side by those two platforms. You'll be able to block the laser and dodge the blue aura from one-shotting you. If there's a fast laser like there is right now, you're just going to have to sit in front of the slower one. When you have the timer on your head, if you're a dark sight class, use dark sight to dodge it. If you're not, just line it up as best as you can with his. In the ride or die version of Pep, it is pretty hard to see the timer, so that is kind of annoying. But other than that, you really just have to worry about the one challenge that you get. And once you're done with his first health bar, the green one, and you're off to the red one, and he switches forms into the like version of him without the clock, this one right here, it's way easier, and you basically are in the clear at that point. He has way less things that'll like do damage to you. He'll like spawn a couple more of him. You do want to kill those because I'm pretty sure they heal him. But for the most part, once you get to his red health bar, you're just in the clear, and it's pretty easy. After that, you can just DPM him the entire time. Cap's about to finish now. I do burst him on his red health bar at the beginning of it, and it does one burst him, if you are wondering. So you can probably one burst if you're at a similar CP to me. But he's about to be dead, and we're gonna see how much we get, which we're at a total of 516 now, and I think we got 55k from him. We're at 16 lives left, but we're already over the 500 mark, which is really good. All right, so now we're getting into our last boss, Darknell. Now I forgot to record the real run of this, so I'm doing a practice run. This is after Shining and Cube Sale, so I will say I'm a lot stronger in this, but I'm gonna go over still the same things that apply. So with the burst, I'm very particular about how I burst. So you're going to want to burst instantly. Normally, I messed up my burst. Normally, before he even moves or anything, I have him stunned. But right here, when you pop Roar, something you want to do that's very important is have a little bit of your Roar be ahead of him. And you want to be in front of him when he's off of his bind, because you want him to attack. And once he attacks, I can go behind him to the right, like you see right there, and I can still be in my Roar. So make sure that some of your Roar is in front of him and the rest of it is behind him, so that when he unbinds, you can go behind him, dodge his blade still while being in Roar. There's two main spots that I like to have Darknell. The first one is going to be in the far left or far right corner completely, because every time he uses an attack, I could just jump away and dodge it. Or exactly where he is right now, slightly away from the corner, so I can just go behind him and dodge his attack, and also dodge the arrows if they come, or the mage like circle ability that damages you as well. This Darknell fight's actually easier than the normal one. They did two things differently. So the arrows you can actually duck under, and the mage circles that go across the map, you don't even have to dodge. You can just walk straight under them. So as long as you're not jumping in the air, you won't get hit by them at all. With his FMA, he'll bring his arm up and sword, and you'll see a text on screen like now. Just go behind him. You can even stand in front of him as well. Just make sure that you're close to him and you'll be able to dodge it. I believe if you're farther away, it'll be more likely to activate. For this fight, up jump, blinking, and ducking are going to be like your best friends. You can see me doing it there, but a lot of the abilities you can just up jump and hold blink and you'll be able to dodge most of them, as well as ducking. The only thing about ducking is you're stuck in place, so I would recommend up jump, blink over duck. The minions I wouldn't worry about at all unless you're like absolutely 1 HP, then they can kill you. Stay away from them, but other than that, you don't really have to worry about them at all. The light beams that you could see right here, you can tank some of them. I definitely don't worry about them too much. If I know that I have a health potion that I can just heal from it, then I'll just tank it. If you just healed and you know it's going to be like 5 seconds before you can heal again, then you're going to want to make sure to dodge them. When Darknell's in the middle, I like to kind of pre-jump when I think he's going to attack back and forth behind him and in front of him. The reason I do it is because every time he attacks, he summons those guys who are going to do random different attacks to you. They summon in the area that you are when he first attacks. So if you are constantly moving, you just have a higher chance of dodging it. So if I'm just pre-jumping back and forth to try to dodge it, if he activates when I'm in midair, let's say above him, they're all going to be in that area and I'm already going to be moving away from it to dodge it. That's why I like to do it. With the Darknell fight, you kind of just have to get comfortable in the chaos. You have to know what you can just ignore and what you need to actually dodge. But for the most part, with this boss and with any of them, just practice, sit in practice mode for a while. I spent a while in practice mode doing it. Just make sure to put in the actual time to practice these bosses. All right, so now we finished Darknell. We got the same, probably like 55k points. We are at a max box and 47 out of 50 frags with this setup, so it does work really well. I'm going to show the rewards really quick now as well. When you open the box, you're going to get a bunch of stuff. You'll get pouches, you'll get arcane symbols or sacred symbols, power elixirs, mace pouches, 5 mag boxes, gold coins, silver coins, exp vouchers, and some soul urda. So for the Kazakh fragments, it's an RNG reward. Big surprise there, Nexon. But basically you open each one and you have a chance of getting some good stuff. You also have a chance of getting some bad stuff. So you can get like 1 growth pot from it. You can get some power elixirs from it. You can also get like different types of mag pots. I believe you can get the 250 mag pots. You can get a 200% drop elixir. You can get Mapei node stones, which are the new nodes that are really good. There's a lot of different options. You can get coins as well, but you just open each one and then you have a chance of getting some good stuff. You have a chance of getting some not great stuff. It's up to the RNG gods at that point. But for me, after opening the 47, the 3 good things I got an Inkwell coin, which gives 200 mil mesos. I got 1 Mipei nodestone, and I got a mag pot. So that's what I got. That was good. It's up to RNG at the end of the day. But yeah, if you did enjoy the video and it did help you in any way, do me a favor and help support me. Hit the like, subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos on this event just in general to help people. Also, if you do have any questions, you're struggling with any of these bosses, feel free to comment them down below. I did get a great boss node off that Mapei nodestone, but feel free to comment below. I'll reply to your comments, help you out any way I can. I'm also going to start streaming as well. My name is It's Ebe. You can see it. It's under my webcam in every single video. It's also linked in the description, so you can just click that and go straight to my Twitch. But I appreciate you watching the video. If you did make it this far, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.